Scooby-Doo, where are you? The phrase goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Generally pretty good words to live by. If something is working perfectly fine, just the way it is, then you don't need to fix it. However, there are times where you might want to try something new. See if something works better than how you've been doing it. In those circumstances, sure, you try something new. And who knows, you make a slight alteration here, you add something there, you change this up a little bit, you could have something brand new and it could be fantastic. For example, let's say somebody always makes a person an apple pie on their birthday. That's just what they always do. Well, one year they decide, you know what, I don't want to make an apple pie this year. Or maybe they don't have apples and they're behind. And they think, well, I gotta make him a pie. I always make him a pie. What should I do? I've got pecans. I'll make a pecan pie for him instead. Now that can turn out a couple different ways. Either A, they will love it and be like, I love pecans. How'd you know me so well? B, they'd be like, pecans. I really like your apples, but thank you. I'll eat it. Or they could even go, what? I hate pecans. Why did you make me a pecan pie? You know, different people react different ways. Okay, that's a smaller example. You want a bigger example or more drastic change? Let's say a family, specifically parents, decide that they're going to add a new member to the family, whether that's a dog, a cat, a pet, or maybe they're having another kid. Now, between them, that can change the dynamic. But between them and their child, that's really going to change because the kid could either be like, you're replacing me? Or, yay, I got a baby brother, baby sister. You know, all these changes can be good. And generally they are good, especially in those circumstances. But they don't always start off good. You never know how things are going to turn out. And then there are some times, like I've said, where things just don't quite work. If you haven't figured it out by now, or if for some reason you just watched this video without reading the title, I'm talking about the new HBO Max series, Velma. Overall, this show has some good things, but there's also a lot of things that just don't work. So, for unedited reviews, this is the HBO Max original series, Velma, or at least the first 2 episodes. Now, I want to start off this video by saying I was never a huge Scooby-Doo fan, at least not as big as some people I know. For example, my wife loves Scooby-Doo. That was just the time when the original Scooby-Doo came out. Obviously, it was before me. And then just over the years, there was nothing really Scooby-Doo to grab me in my prime. Or, you know, when I was at prime age to love Scooby-Doo and just grow up with it. But that doesn't mean that I haven't seen a lot of Scooby-Doo. And that doesn't mean that I don't like Scooby-Doo. It just means it wasn't at the forefront of my childhood. Not like things like you see around me, from Spider-Man to X-Men to Batman, to even Power Rangers, to a certain degree. But I've gone back and I've watched most of the shows, I've caught up, and I've enjoyed it. I like Scooby-Doo. I like the gang, I like their camaraderie, I like how their relationships are, and I like how things over the years have tweaked or changed things up, you know, added a new dynamic to the group, to the gang. Whether that's Mystery Incorporated, adding a love connection between Velma and Shaggy, giving us more of a overarching mystery with individual mysteries per episode, but having that overarching theme. To the movies that have been different. They've given the characters a new type of personality, but it feels like they've grown. It worked. It made sense. Were they great movies? No. But they were entertaining and they worked on the basic level that I think a Scooby-Doo movie should. And then, of course, you've got the made-for-TV movies. Again, not great, but they went about it in an interesting way, trying to tell their own origin story for the gang. And it worked. I mean, you could say Pup Named Scooby-Doo, which is a show so many people love, is kind of an origin story in itself a little bit. They're all these different iterations of Scooby and the gang. And for the most part, they work. Sure, they all have their little nitpicks, their little things. It's like, that doesn't quite work for me. For example, I watched the entire series of Be Cool Scooby-Doo. At first, it didn't work for me. At first, I couldn't get into the type of humor they had. I wasn't a huge fan of the animation. But again, my wife, she loved it. She loved the changes that they made to some of the characters. And I have to admit, over time, it grew on me. Now, I mean, I even watched a few episodes of Scooby and Shaggy Get a Clue, or maybe it's Shaggy and Scooby Get a Clue. But I haven't watched enough to give a real, to give my real thoughts on it, because just based on like the 2 or 3 episodes I saw, I'm like, this doesn't really work for me. It doesn't quite feel right. I'm not a huge fan of the animation style, but at least it still had something that I felt, I'm like, okay, this is enjoyable. So now we get to the newest incarnation with Velma. First off, I'm going to start by saying there's plenty in here, I think, that had good intentions. That it's not the reason why the show, spoiler alert, is bad so far. For example, the animation, yeah, it's grown on me. It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's not something that I can't watch the show because the animation sucks. The characters and the changes they've made to how they look, to their appearance, you know, minor things. Whether that's the ethnicity of some of the characters or the relationships between certain characters, or just, you know, adding some more modern ideas to it, I'm perfectly fine with that. It works. I was perfectly fine with some of those changes that they made in Scooby-Doo movies. That's not the problem with this show. I mean, even some of the ideas are not terrible. It's when you get to the core of it. It's when you get to the core of these characters where this show just sucks. There, I said it. This show is bad. And it's because of the core characters. And it's because it misses out on what the core of Scooby-Doo is. For one thing, it doesn't have Scooby-Doo anywhere in it. I mean, yeah, I get it. The show's called Velma. So it doesn't have to have Scooby-Doo. But you got the Scooby Gang, so you kind of need Scooby-Doo. In every incarnation, Scooby has always been with Shaggy. So why isn't he in here? Right there, you lost part, and you've lost me a little bit, because I see these characters, I hear these names, I'm thinking Scooby. Now, will he show up? I would hope so. Maybe he'll show up by the end of the show, or the end of the season, who knows. And then we also get these characters, they're just not the characters. I mean, Velma, she's got problems. Again, not a big deal, but that's what the show is focusing on. It's focusing on her mental problems, surrounded by the fact that she thinks it's because she wanted to solve a mystery that her mother disappeared or is gone. Okay, fine, but Velma is the brainy one. Velma is the smart one. Velma is the one that likes solving mysteries. And yes, there's aspects of her liking mysteries in this. And yes, she's obviously smart. But that's not the focus of the character here. It's all focused about this post-traumatic stress, which, don't get me wrong, is definitely something that shows can talk about, probably should talk about, but it doesn't work here. It just doesn't. It takes away focus from what Scooby-Doo fans and people like me who just like Scooby-Doo have come to expect overall. Then there's Daphne. Yeah, pardon my language, but she's a bitch. It has nothing to do with that they changed her ethnicity. It has nothing to do with that. She's just, she feels nothing like Daphne. Daphne is the fun, go-lucky girl, the one who's always getting into trouble, always getting kidnapped, at least in the original series. She's the one that her mind probably just flutters away, though she can be smart when she needs to be. You know, she's the more fun one. She's the fun one to Velma's more serious type of tone. And yeah, that happens here. But there's plenty of things in this series Daphne's done already. That the Daphne we know, the Daphne that people have grown up with, the one that they've come to love, would never do these things. Right off the bat, I'll give you a spoiler alert for episode 2 of this season, but I don't recommend you watch it. But she's selling drugs. I don't see Daphne doing that. The Daphne we know would not do that. She's more interested in how she looks. She's more interested in clothing and shopping, in even adventure. That's not this Daphne. Again, the core of the character is not there. Then Fred. Oh boy, Fred. Fred is a whiny little baby, which they lean into very heavy in these first 2 episodes. They embrace that. That's not Fred. Yeah, Fred might be a little not with it at times, doesn't pick up on the obvious things that's going on around him. He doesn't pick up on how much Daphne actually cares about him or how much he loves Daphne, especially depending on the series you watch. For example, like Mystery Incorporated. Here, they're already together, basically, and he can't do anything for himself. He's a spoiled little rich brat. I don't even see him interested in a mystery. I don't see him interested in traps. I don't know how that character will come from this character. He's all, my body, everything has to be perfect. He whines if he doesn't get his way. He's not leadership material at all. And again, for the 3rd time in this video, that's not the core of who Fred is. And finally, there's Shaggy. Oh, nope, I'm sorry. Norville in this series. I know it's still Shaggy, but he goes by Norville. Does he like food? Seems like he likes food as much as anybody else does. I mean, he has the only reference to loving food is like a blog he does. But he's so obsessed with Velma and wanting her to be his girlfriend, which is something Shaggy never would have done. It would have built to that. You know, again, I reference Mystery Incorporated. Mystery Incorporated did a lot of the things this show wants to do, and it did it 100,000 times better, and it made sense. It worked. That show grew on me. I wasn't a huge fan of it at first, but it grew on me. I feel like Shaggy, yes, I'm just going to call him Shaggy. He's not afraid of anything. He's oblivious to what's going on. And sure, Shaggy's oblivious at times, but that's because he's focused on other things. This version of the character, he just doesn't feel like Shaggy, like all of them. He's not a scaredy cat. He's not obsessed about all these different food combinations, which the rest of us just go bleh to. That's not him. I mean, this will lead in to the animation style itself. I'm sorry, but it doesn't look like Shaggy. It really doesn't. You can do a lot of things with a lot of these characters. This just does not look like Shaggy. It just doesn't. And I know what some people are probably thinking, why I think that. But even when you take that aspect out of the equation, he still doesn't look like Shaggy. I mean, Velma, yeah, Velma still looks like Velma. Daphne, for the most part, still looks like Daphne. Fred, yeah, looks like Fred for the most part. But this animation style, it works at times and it doesn't at others. It's not the worst thing about the show. But, like I said, it doesn't grab me. It doesn't pull me out, but it doesn't grab me either. And, I mean, that's also part of the story. The story is fine. I mean, they're trying to tell an origin story. But guess what? They did that better on the TV movie Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins. That was a better origin story than this show is. They wanted to do an overarching mystery. Again, Mystery Incorporated did that. But what they failed to do is have a mystery every episode. That is something fans really have come to expect. They expect a single mystery every episode. I mean, I'm not a mega fan like some people, but that's what I'm expecting when I watch a Scooby-Doo episode. A monster of the week, a mystery of the week. And if I'm lucky, yeah, an overarching story. This show just focuses on the overarching story. It doesn't focus on the individual mysteries, the individual monsters, which is another thing. No monsters in sight. How can you be Scooby-Doo and not have monsters? Or monsters? I mean, sure. You got Velma having delusions and scary delusions of monsters all around her. But that's not the same thing. It's really not. It's not the creep in a costume. Now, for all I know, all of these complaints I have and the complaints everybody else has could be reconciled or could be fixed in the later episodes. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have just dropped off the show. Me, yeah, I've probably dropped off, but it's half an hour. I'm a stickler. I mean, it's only going to be 9 episodes, so I'm probably going to finish watching it. But if they do a season 2, which, with the way things are going, they probably won't, I'm not going to watch it. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that it gets better. That we see more of those classic characters, the classic tropes that we got in Scooby-Doo. And I hope that we see Scooby-Doo. But like I said, there's a lot in this show that could be good. A lot of ideas that they've tried before and they've done before. I think the biggest problem with this show, again, aside from the core, the characters not working and just the feel of the show isn't what fans want when they think of Scooby-Doo. And let's be honest, you can call it Velma, which they did. You could call it Fred or Daphne. But the minute you include the gang, people automatically associate it with Scooby-Doo. That's just how we as fans work. That's just how our minds work. So while I see that they were trying something new, and I guess I'll have to applaud them for taking the risk, for trying something, it didn't work here. If you want an adult Scooby-Doo show, that's fine. You can make an adult Scooby-Doo show work. But this isn't it. This is not it. Other YouTubers have said they wanted to do a Harley Quinn version of Scooby-Doo. The Harley Quinn show that's on HBO Max, they wanted that, but Scooby-Doo. And you could make that work. You could make an adult version of Scooby-Doo, adult cartoon, and it could work. But this isn't it. The thing about the Harley Quinn show, that character is more made for that type of show. It's made for the adult audience. It's made to have all those swear words or the darkness to it, the out there humor, the violence. It's made for that, not these characters. And I was one of those people. I didn't like Harley Quinn at first. I thought it was going to be stupid, and I didn't like some of the way they incorporated or their versions of some of the characters. But I've come to love the show because I've accepted it. It's funny, it's different. And as comic book fans, we do also understand, hopefully, the idea of the multiverse. The idea that this is just one version of the gang out there. It doesn't mean we have to like it. It doesn't mean it's our version of the group. It's not interconnected. In the great multiverse, there's many, many different versions of the gang. Some with Scooby, some without. And this is just another one of them. But that doesn't mean it's one that we like. It doesn't mean it's one that's necessarily going to work. I say it's like Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, before anybody comments, yes, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Turtles by far is better. It's different. Not all fans love it. I haven't finished watching everything, but it is better than Velma by far, because it still has all the core characters. It's twisted the characters a little bit. It changes some things up. It changes villains. It changes the style. But admittedly, it's something that works a little bit better because it feels, ultimately, it still feels like it's Turtles to a certain degree. Velma, it just doesn't feel like it's Scooby-Doo. And again, I'm sorry, I know the title's Velma, but I'm just saying what we're all thinking. I have a hard time saying Velma because it's Scooby-Doo. Again, it's the Scooby Gang. I've said that a million times already. And again, yes, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 100 times better than this show, I'll say. So, if you can't figure it out from everything I've said, I do not recommend Velma. Now, hopefully, it'll get better. Hopefully, this is just how the series starts and not how it's going to finish. I'm going to be a sucker and finish watching the show just because that's how I am for the most part. And I'll probably release a short video after the series is done saying if it got better or not. But what do you think? Have you watched Velma? If so, what do you think of it down below? Are my criticisms correct or are they wrong? What about the praise that I've given it? The things I've actually said about the show that are actually not bad and I don't mind. Because like I said, I think there are things about this show that could work and the ideas could work. They just were executed poorly. Or have you not seen the show? Have I changed your mind about giving it a glance, or have I just encouraged you to skip it? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this and just more glorious nerd stuff here on the channel. So, until next time, remember, read what you love, enjoy what you love, and let's all work for a better fandom. I'll see you next time.